Welcome back to the Abyss, my fellow horror enthusiasts. Here in the darkness we feast on fear, and tonight we have a banquet of terror prepared just for you. We've collected 3 bone-chilling tales from the people who stare into the abyss every night, night shift workers. They work when the world sleeps, when shadows dance, and when logic takes a backseat to the unexplainable. So lock your doors, turn off the lights, and huddle close, because these stories are not for the faint of heart. Tonight we delve into the darkness together. Our first story takes us to the desolate outskirts of a forgotten city, where a towering skeletal structure stood abandoned, shrouded in an eerie silence. This was no ordinary building. Locals whispered of its haunted past, of tragedies that stained its concrete bones. Our narrator, a seasoned security guard named Mark, scoffed at these tales. He'd heard it all, seen it all, or so he thought.
Assigned to the night shift at this desolate post, I initially found a grim comfort in the silence. The only sounds the hum of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic thump of my own heartbeat. The first few nights were uneventful, the silence occasionally broken by the scurrying of rats or the howling wind whistling through broken windows. But then something changed. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy that sent shivers down my spine.
One night, as he made his rounds, his flashlight beam danced across a darkened hallway, revealing a fleeting glimpse of a figure at the far end. It was a tall, gaunt silhouette, seemingly draped in shadows, its edges blurring into the darkness. Mark froze, his heart pounding against his ribs, his breath catching in his throat.
I blinked, and the figure vanished. Chalk it up to fatigue, I told myself, my mind desperately seeking a rational explanation. But deep down, a seed of unease had been planted. As the nights crawled by, the incidents escalated. Footsteps echoed in the dead of night, heavy and deliberate, yet when I investigated, I found nothing. Objects moved inexplicably, tools left on my desk vanished only to reappear in strange locations. The oppressive atmosphere intensified, pressing down on me like an unseen weight.
Then came the night that shattered his composure. The night the unseen made its presence undeniably known. He was patrolling the upper floors, his flashlight cutting through the suffocating darkness when he heard it. A soft, mournful whisper coming from the end of the hallway. It sent chills down his spine, the sound seeming to slither around the edges of his senses.
I cautiously moved towards the sound, my hand trembling as it gripped the flashlight. The whispering grew louder, accompanied by a faint, sickly, sweet scent that I couldn't place. As I reached the end of the hallway, my flashlight illuminated a doorway, its wooden frame rotted and decayed. I peered inside, my heart pounding in my chest, and that's when I saw it.
Standing in the center of the room, bathed in an ethereal glow, was the figure. It was taller than he remembered, its form indistinct, yet radiating an aura of immense sadness and longing. Mark stood there, paralyzed by fear, his mind reeling as he tried to process what he was seeing. The figure turned towards him, its face obscured by the shadows, yet he could feel its gaze piercing through him, cold and ancient.
Then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished, leaving me gasping for breath in the oppressive darkness. I didn't wait to investigate further. I fled that building, my fear propelling me through the darkness. The memory of that night seared into my mind forever.
Our next tale unfolds in the sterile, brightly lit halls of a city hospital, where the line between reality and delusion blurs beneath the harsh glare of fluorescent lights. Sarah, a compassionate and dedicated nurse, was used to the quiet hum of the night shift. She found a strange solace in tending to her patients, their hushed breaths and the rhythmic beeping of monitors, creating an odd symphony of life in the stillness.
One particularly uneventful night, as I made my rounds, a sense of unease settled over me. It started with a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a prickling sensation at the back of my neck. The usual hospital sounds seemed amplified, each beep of a monitor, each rustle of sheets, echoing through the empty hallways. As I approached room 302, a room that had been vacant for weeks, I noticed a faint light emanating from under the door. Curiosity piqued, I slowly pushed the door open, my heart pounding a little faster than usual.
The room was dimly lit, the only source of light a flickering bedside lamp. In the bed, propped up against the pillows, lay an elderly woman, her frail hand resting on the crisp white sheets. Sarah's mind raced. She had no recollection of admitting a patient to this room. She approached the woman cautiously, her instincts screaming at her that something wasn't right.
"Hello?" I asked softly, my voice barely a whisper. The woman didn't respond. She seemed to be in a deep sleep, her chest rising and falling rhythmically. I checked her charts, but there was no record of a patient in room 302. Confused and increasingly uneasy, I decided to contact the attending physician.
As she turned to leave, she noticed something peculiar. The woman's hand, the one resting on the sheets, was ice cold to the touch. It was as if all the warmth had been drained from her body. Sarah recoiled her hand instantly, a shiver running down her spine. She spun around to get a better look at the woman, her heart pounding in her chest.
But the bed was empty. The woman had vanished. My mind reeled, struggling to comprehend what I had just witnessed. I checked under the bed, behind the curtains, even in the bathroom, but there was no sign of the elderly patient. It was as if she had disappeared into thin air. Shaken to my core, I stumbled out of the room, my mind racing with questions. Had I imagined the entire encounter? Was the stress of the night shift finally getting to me? I had no answers, only a growing sense of dread that clung to me like a shroud.
From that night forward, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone in the hospital halls, the memory of the vanishing patient forever etched in her mind. Our final tale takes us to the lonely stretches of highway that snake through vast, desolate landscapes, where the only sound is the low hum of your engine and the endless whisper of the wind.
I had seen my fair share of strange occurrences on the road, driven through blinding snowstorms, navigated treacherous mountain passes, and encountered my fair share of wildlife darting across the road. But nothing could have prepared me for what I experienced one starless night.
Jack was hauling a load of electronics across several states, the monotony of the open road broken only by the occasional chatter on his CB radio. As he drove deeper into the night, the traffic thinned and a sense of isolation enveloped him. The air grew heavy with an unnatural stillness, a silence so profound it felt almost oppressive.
I switched on the radio, hoping to catch a local station, but all I got was static. I was alone with my thoughts, the vast emptiness of the highway stretching out before me like an uncharted sea.
That's when he saw it. A figure standing in the middle of the road, illuminated by his headlights. It was tall and slender, its edges blurring in the darkness, its form shifting and wavering like a heat haze.
I slammed on the brakes, the screeching of tires echoing through the stillness. My heart pounded against my ribs, my breath catching in my throat as I strained to make sense of what I was seeing.
The figure remained motionless, its back to him, seemingly oblivious to the approaching truck. He cautiously eased off the brakes, his mind racing. Was it a person? An animal? Something else entirely?
I flicked on my high beams, hoping to get a better look. As the light washed over the figure, I could have sworn I heard a low, guttural growl, a sound that sent chills down my spine.
He watched in horror as the figure slowly turned towards him, its movements jerky and unnatural. He couldn't make out any features, only a dark, amorphous shape that seemed to absorb the light. He knew then, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that he was not looking at anything human.
Adrenaline surged through my veins. I shifted into gear, my foot slamming down on the accelerator. The engine roared to life, and I sped past the figure, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't dare look back, my eyes glued to the road ahead.
He drove for what felt like hours. The memory of that nightmarish encounter burned into his mind. He had never encountered anything like it before, and he prayed he never would again. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had narrowly escaped something sinister, something that haunted the lonely stretches of highway, preying on unsuspecting travelers. And there you have it, another descent into the darkest corners of our world. We hope you enjoyed these terrifying tales from the night shift, where shadows dance and fear reigns supreme. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel for more spine-chilling content, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a terrifying tale. And if you have any creepy encounters of your own, we want to hear them. Share your stories in the comments below, and let's keep the darkness alive together. But for now, sleep tight, and remember, the things that go bump in the night might be closer than you think.